So you think you saw an alien spaceship?
Yeah, because back then I don't believe we had the technology to create a ARV, an alien reproduction vehicle. I think what I saw was probably a real UFO.
Wow. Are you the first black guy to see a UFO?
No, I'm not the first black guy. I'm just one of the, I'm probably not one of the first, because I know there was Benny and Barney Hill. Barney Hill was a black guy who came out, I think it was in the 60s or 70s, about his abduction situation with him and his wife. And him and his wife were abducted, and they gave an account of what these beings showed them as where they came from. And nobody knew where the Zeta Reticuli star system was at that time. It didn't exist in our star maps. Later on, it came out. A person says, wait a minute, and they put it together and said, this is Zeta Reticuli. We found this star system now. Now we know where they say they were from. Pretty interesting.
Wait, hold on. So this couple described a star system that they could have no prior knowledge of?
Correct.
Meaning they couldn't have gone to school and learned about this or read about this anywhere.
Right, exactly.
Later on, we find this star system.
Yeah.
And then who connects the dots?
An astrophysicist or astronomer connects the dots and says, wait a minute, this is Zeta Reticuli.
Okay, so you see this thing. And again, we don't know. It could be advanced technology that we have that you saw.
It could.
Right.
Science is full of uncertainty, which I learned from Professor James Gates yesterday when I talked to him about supersymmetry and stuff in an interview I did with him just yesterday. And that uncertainty is always there. You can never say anything for 100% certainty. And so because of that, there is always a possibility that it's something else.
I had dinner with Bob Lazar.
Okay.
And my takeaway from the dinner with Bob was going on Rogan, and Rogan asked me if I wanted to come to dinner. So we went to Fogo de Chao.
Wow.
As you do. And Bob was there, and Jeremy Corbell was there as well.
Yeah.
And I believed Bob believed what he saw. Now, that doesn't mean that it's not advanced technology that we have, that we've created, but I do believe that he was working on something, and he believed it was alien spacecraft. So I believe that he was being honest.
I could tell you why I believe his story, at least some of it, is because he talked about element 115 before we even discovered element 115.
Yeah.
We're talking about 25 years span in between.
That's why the star system thing is quite interesting to me. So if you are describing things that have not been discovered yet, and then they do become discovered,
exactly,
it adds some credibility.
Yeah.
Okay, so with your situation, you believe you saw a UFO.
Yeah.
Do you think that the UFO people, the aliens or whoever they are, do you think they choose the people that see them, or this is happenstance?
If you start researching these alien abduction experiences or these alien sighting experiences, which there are now over 7 million of them documented in MUFON, you start to see a similarity between the stories and repetitiveness with some of the visitations or sightings or whatever you want to call them. And so it's quite possible that they isolate and interact with specific people at specific times. I mean, to what agenda? At the end of the day, we're like ants.
Did you have any communication at all? Did you feel anything in the moment?
I felt nothing in that moment. I had a second experience in 2010, which is well documented. I've talked about it. It took years to come out about it because I basically lost my whole family over this.
No way.
Yeah.
You came out of the closet? No,
Diddy.
No.
But yeah,
tell me, what happened?
So 2010, I came home. I was working on this big project called Fort Terra Nova, which I built. And Fort Terra Nova, it was on the History Channel, a Countdown to Apocalypse, the Nostradamus episode. And anyway, so I was working on this project. I come home, I'm looking at ESPN, and I'm looking at sports about 9:00 p.m. All the lights turn dim, the TV turns off, and I thought my kids were playing a trick on me because they lived up in the room behind me, up on the second floor. And I look up, and there's nobody there. When I turn around, there were these two beings right there.
Get the fuck out of here.
Yeah. And, man, hold on.
Whoa.
Sorry.
No.
Why do you have big freaks up, man?
No.
So they were right there. I'm sitting in a chair about this high, so they were right here in my eyes. And
Alex is freaking out right now. What the fuck? This is wild. Okay.
All right, let me get myself together.
No, take your time.
So they were there. They had the big almond eyes like you see on TV. I swear they did.
So you have two beings in front of you.
But they didn't look like they were real eyes. They looked like coverings of some type. And they didn't communicate with me through any kind of telepathy that I could tell, but I felt like my brain was shaking in my skull to the point where it started hurting, and I started screaming, but no sound was coming out of my throat. I can feel the air coming out, but I couldn't hear it myself.
And you were awake during this period? You weren't taking a nap or anything like that?
Taking a nap, no psychedelics.
Of course, yeah.
And my whole house, everyone was in. My wife at the time, my ex-wife was in the bedroom right behind the next wall. My girls were in that side of the house, a split floor plan. My boys were in that side of the house. The house was full of people. Nobody heard or saw anything. I was screaming. A few seconds later, it stops, and they turn around, and they don't walk like a person. They kind of dangle. So they kind of dangled away, and they went right through the wall. And then, boom, the TV comes back. The lights come back to normal color. And that's when I went running around the house, and it was just traumatic for everybody, and it was like the straw that broke the camel's back. There was other reasons why, but I ended up my one son, Giovanni, he's told me I'm scared to even come around you, and still to this day, he rarely ever calls me or comes around. It's like I lost my son. I made no money off of this. I got no exposure off of this. That's why I kept it quiet for so long. Lost my family, created a lot of dissension. I remember we were on a highway one day, and my wife was driving at the time, my ex-wife, and she slammed on the brakes, and it was like, just get out of the car, because it was the kids were scared, and I was like, I'm sticking to my story. I'm not changing my story because this really happened to me, and they just didn't want to hear it. But her parents were Jehovah's Witnesses, so everything was of the devil, and so it was a pretty traumatic experience. It took a long time to talk about it. The only reason why I came out with that information was because I started running into a lot of people at conferences that would come up to me and tell me that they were having these experiences. They were horrified to talk about them. So I felt like if I would talk about it, I would give them strength for them to have expressed themselves and walk in their truth and believe in their experience that they had.
Okay, so when you started telling this story just right now, I want to point something out.
Yeah.
Listen, I'm skeptical about everything. I just want to let you know.
Yeah.
I could believe there was one physical sensation that I saw in you that kind of freaked me out. I'm not gonna lie. Crying, people can put that on.
True.
You started to perspire.
Yeah. I know.
That to me, I don't know. I know that actors can induce crying. I don't know if they can induce sweat. so to me, the tears are less of an example. I mean, your whole forehead just started to sweat. So maybe that is a traumatic experience of the loss of your family, and that is evoking that reaction. But fuck. Okay.
Were the beings, did they have clothes on? Was there anything else discernible about them?
Yeah, they didn't really have on what looked like clothes to me. They weren't really gray. They were almost like brownish, but they had very big eyes, 2 little tiny dots for a nose, a slit for a mouth. They never opened the mouth. They never opened. They never moved at all. They didn't even shake. There was no facial movements. I couldn't discern if they were even real or not real, or in terms of being something that was flesh. But their hands were very long and dangly like you see on TV, I swear to you. And I was just completely shocked. Now, 2 things happened to me after this situation. The first thing was, of course, I scared the hell out of everybody. The second thing was, I kept hearing this voice in my head over and over again. Worldwide telescope, worldwide telescope, worldwide telescope, over and over and over. So finally, the next day I got so tired of this, I couldn't stop this noise, this phrase.
What was the sound of the voice? What was the...
It sounded like my voice.
It's your own voice.
My own voice.
Echoing worldwide telescope.
Over and over and over again. So I go to my computer. Back then, Google wasn't a big name yet. It was excite.com. So I get on excite.com. I type in worldwide telescope, but you can type it in on Google now. First thing popped up was worldwidetelescope.org, and I almost fell out of my chair. Worldwidetelescope.org is a site where all the space probe data from all the missions into space exists based on taxpayer and research data. So you can download this. Back then you had to download it. You couldn't just web. You didn't have www4 or whatever they call it now. But now you can just run it from the app, from the browser. but back then you had to install it. You can still install it if you want. I go in there, I go in, and I go, okay, what is this? And I see Moon, Mars, you know, all these other planets and so forth and star systems. I click on, okay, click on Mars. I click on Mars, then I see panoramas pop up. I go, oh, panorama. I click on panoramas. The next thing I know, I see the names of panoramas. So I click on McMurdo Valley. I go into McMurdo Valley and I start seeing things that don't belong.
What's a panorama?
It's like
just an image?
A wide image, but it's not just a regular image. It's an image that allows you to zoom in, zoom out, pan left and right from the rover's perspective.
So you're looking at images that have been taken from spacecraft.
From the Mars rovers.
The Mars rovers.
Yeah.
Of Mars?
Spirit rover and Opportunity rover.
But they are of Mars or they're of?
They're of Mars, on Mars.
Got it, okay.
Yeah. Spirit rover is no longer operating because one of the last images it transmitted looked really strange. And I think they just blew it up or something. they never turned it back on after that one. But these things that I saw on the surface between the presidential panorama and also a McMurdo Valley, they didn't look like they belonged on Mars. They looked like broken down structures from the Middle East. And I was like, what the hell is this? And the more I looked, the more of these anomalies I kept seeing. So it led me down a whole rabbit hole into anomaly hunting. That anomaly hunting got me into researching these ancient civilizations. That's how it happened. That's literally how it happened. So because of that experience, I became an expert in ancient civilizations, literally. That's how I got into it.
And do you feel, is this an example of the?
Yeah, that's the Spirit rover right there on the upper left. And there's a lot of anomalies. We've documented so many crazy anomalies over the years. And I can send you some if you want to pop them in there. Just some crazy stuff that made CNN, that made CNBC, Fox News. A lot of our stuff has been featured in the news. We've downloaded over 1 million of these panoramas from the space agencies, and we've now documented over 60,000 anomalies. Things that don't belong there. Everything from pyramids to Ankhs.
Yeah, what is the craziest image that you have documented?
The craziest image I would have to say would be this object that looks like, I gotta say looks like, because we're not there, looks like an airplane. Another one would be this statue on the side of Victoria Crater. And I can pull these up and give them to you. Another one would be these Ankhs. We found several Ankhs laying around in the sand.
What's an Ankh?
The Egyptian Ankh. The cross with the loop on top.
Oh.
Yeah, what are those doing up there? And so, yeah, I'm just saying.
That's a good point.
What's that doing there?
But that's a good question.
Crazy.
So, okay. I don't want to lean too much into this, but I would be remiss if I did not ask you.
Yeah.
It must be, I would imagine, if I was someone in your shoes and
That's Victoria Crater, by the way.
Man, get the fuck out of here.
No, that's real. You can pull it up. Anybody can pull these up. That's what I love about these. I always give the source link so anyone can pull them up. Any person.
Now, obviously, that's been colorized to make it more visible.
To make it pop out, yeah. There it goes, uncolorized.
But even uncolorized, it's still just a little bit crazy.
It's there. And there's even more on that crater, but it's to the left, which that's not a good, it's not a wide panoramic shot, but there's more.
Yeah.
A lot more there.
Okay, so again, I would be remiss not to ask this. You have a sighting with a UFO, then you have an interaction with beings, and then you have a message to go look up these images.
Yeah.
I would imagine someone in your shoes, it would be very difficult to not follow this, I don't even want to say line of thinking, but follow this they've almost like edged you in a direction.
Yeah.
It would be very difficult to not run down that hallway. True. So I would imagine it would be hard for a person in your shoes after having these experiences to not think, hey, they want me to go look into this stuff. Is that kind of what you feel?
That's a fact. Now, what I've done is to try to combat the nudging that's happened. I always keep digging into the science. So I've talked to geologists, I talked to scientists, I talked to engineers, I talked to homegrown guides, archaeologists, indigenous people from all around the world. I keep digging and trying to debunk my own theories.
Got it.
And the deeper I dig to debunk, the less I debunk.
Because you've heard these stories. Listen, and we're not here to discredit you. I literally want to do this podcast because I was just like, take us fucking deep. This is going to be so much fun. Like, I don't care about the science or the fact. I want to just hear the craziest shit that you got to say. I did not know you were going to talk about fucking meeting aliens. That's kind of crazy. Okay, but I can also imagine that if that happened to me, I would go down this rabbit hole and I would just see how deep it would go. And I would also maybe even feel like it was my purpose to do this thing, right? They've chosen me. Mm-hmm. And what have they chosen me to do? So what, if you do feel that way, why do you think they've chosen you? And two, what do you think that your purpose is?
Yeah, I always consider that, like, why me? Why did this happen to me? The only thing I could think of is that I have a high retention for information. My recall ability is incredible in a lot of the stuff that I talk about, mm-hmm. especially when I'm passionate about it. Probably everyone does. They just maybe don't realize it, but maybe they saw my ability to consume a lot of information and my ability to travel the world. I've been around the world 38 times now. Right. Last year, I spent 9 months in hotels. Not many people can do that and still make a living and do what they do. So maybe they have a way of understanding, like, hey, this guy has the skills, the tools, and the capacity to really grasp this.
And why is it important that you grasp it? Why is it important to them that you share this? That's what I'm trying to understand. Like, what are they trying to get to?
This is what my hypothesis that I came up with. Human beings are an abandoned seed colony on this planet. And we have had some influence due to people violating what I would call a prime directive. We've been engaged in a way that we weren't supposed to be engaged, and we've been given technologies that have sped us up far past where we should be right now, including here, this AI thing is coming, right? And that's no oversight, no nothing, and it's just being unleashed on us. Again, more advancement in the blink of an eye that we're not ready for, spiritually or consciously. And it put us in a predicament. And I believe that there are people out there that are watching us, I do mean people, that are watching us and observing us to see when we're gonna go from being babies that are learning how to crawl, to learning how to walk, to learning how to run, to being adolescents, to even then becoming full, and consciously in the spirit, to becoming full-grown adults. I think that mankind is a baby learning how to crawl. And every now and then when a baby learns how to crawl, it plops down on its stomach, right? Because it has to get the strength. We've plopped down on our stomach a few times. Those will be some of the hiccups in our civilization right now. Eventually, we will grab onto the edge of a table and pull ourselves up and start taking steps.
What are the hiccups?
Hiccups, racism, slavery, inquisitions, religion.
Atomic bombs, maybe?
Atomic bombs, technologies that we're not ready for. All these things are the hiccups, right? Police brutality. My dad was killed by police, And so all these things, you look at it, and from a perspective of right now, it looks like things are getting worse, but it's actually the greatest time to be alive. Mm-hmm. There's no bubonic plague, there's no black plague, there's no Spanish flu. Those things almost wiped out human beings. Yeah. There's no papal inquisitions, there's no American Holocaust, which nobody talks about. 111 million indigenous natives of the Americas slaughtered in 70 years. Nobody talks about that, but that happened, right? And so that's not happening, right? I can go outside, you can go outside. We don't see dead bodies laid all over the street right now. Now, are there things going on like in Israel and Iran and all these other things? Yes. But overall, on a mass consensus, it's the greatest time to be alive. Yeah. And so we're at the stage now where we have an opportunity to grab onto the edge of the table and pull ourselves up and begin to take those first steps. But after we take that step, what's gonna happen? We're gonna fall and we're gonna cry. But when the challenge is, when we pull ourselves back up, how long will it take for us to get a good walking gait? What is the definition of walking? Controlled falls. We have to learn how to control our fall. That's how you achieve a golden age. And I think that they're waiting at some point for us to see, for us to realize when we can stand up and we can start taking those steps in the right direction.
And then they give us some good shit again, or?
It's quite possible. That gives us the ability to get open communication.
They're like, okay, we trust you now.
Or we have to get to a certain level consciously before other technologies can be revealed. I mean, I don't know. I'm just guessing at this point, but I think they're waiting to see how long will 8 billion people allow 100 families to control them.
8 billion people
are being controlled by 100 families.
Who are these families?
These are the elite oligarchs that control the planet. They literally run us They tell us what to do, hear, see, smell, taste, touch, feel, where we can go, where we can't go. Don't cross over that invisible line, because if you do, you're illegal and all this other kind of crazy stuff. They're running us, and governments are put in place to work for the people, but they got it flipped and they got us working for them.
Right.
And telling us what they're going to do to us if we don't listen to them. That's the opposite of what it's supposed to be.
But
so at some point,
what they learned from the
learned it.
Anunnaki?
They learned it, and they learned it real well.
But that's what the Anunnaki? At least that's what you're saying that they did for the human race, right?
But the reason why the world it is today, why we have this boot on our neck, is because of us. We're the problem. The 8 billion are the problem.
Because we haven't elevated our consciousness to the level that
they're sharks. A shark smells blood. A shark attacks.
Right.
A shark is going to be a shark. How come we as 8 billion people haven't stopped falling for these divide and conquer tactics and stop fighting each other over the scraps and realize who the real enemy is? While we're fighting each other, they're just cutting up the pie and laughing at us. Left wing, right wing, all the same bird, right? There's no such thing as a Democrat or Republican. Mm-hmm. The only thing that does exist, like I say, is a group of elite oligarchs that torture men, women, and children worldwide. That exists. Democrat and Republican doesn't exist.
Now, how can we be so sure that those people are not working with the beings that you saw, and maybe they're doing the bidding of those beings?
We can't be.
Those beings might not be benevolent.
They may not be. I don't know. All I could tell you is what my hypothesis is.
Yeah.
And I feel that when mankind realizes that we're all bent over with a big table on our back, a playing board. When we stand up, the table falls off of our backs and the game is over. And standing up means unity, loving one another, treating you and everyone else like brother and sister, understanding that we are all just different aspects of one another, and realizing that everything is conscious. And then we get to the next level. Until then, it's gonna be this whole, I'm better than you and you're better than me. You see the rap civil war going on and all these crazy things going on. I mean, we have to get above and beyond that to the next level. And then humanity will really take huge strides.
Do you wish that experience never happened to you?
I used to in the beginning, but now I see that it put me on the path where I am. I'm extremely happy now. I'm married again. I've got a fresh start, I'm very happy. I found somebody on the same frequency as me, that works side by side with me and understands and travels with me. One of the hardest things to do is travel with somebody and be gone for 9 months in like deserts and stuff, you know what I'm saying? So I found somebody that really gets it. And so I'm really in a really good place right now. And the business is being built, utilizing my passion. I walked away from my call center business, even though it was very successful. I walked away from it. I gave my share to the other partners and just jumped off the cliff and said, I'm just going into the knowledge thing and that's all I'm gonna do. And didn't really have a plan or anything in the beginning, and then I waited 7 years to monetize it, but everything is going as planned. So I think everything happens in divine time, and I think I'm right where I'm supposed to be.
Do you wish you did anything different when you saw the aliens? You wish you said anything?
I couldn't. I couldn't say anything.
But I'm sure you think back to that moment.
Yeah.
Do you wish you tried to communicate telepathically? Do you think you fucked it up? Do you damn, this was my one moment, I just screamed?
I don't think so. I think whatever that shaking was, it did something to me. Maybe they were just trying to put something in my head. I mean, I have no idea.
Are you familiar with Aleister Crowley's depiction of lamb?
No.
Have you heard of this?
Aleister Crowley's depiction of a lamb?
Of the entity that he was talking to.
Oh, the entity. Oh, yeah.
Was that similar to what you saw?
Can you bring it up, Mark?
That's a horrifying, more like a clown. It's like the big overhead, right? Mm-hmm. When it kind of goes out like this. Mm-hmm. Yeah. No, it wasn't like that. It was more like almost like the ones you see in the movies, which means it told me right away that these movie directors or whoever is writing these movies, they know what these people look like. So
not like that.
You see how his head is more like a big out like that with a big brow in the front. It didn't look like that, no. But that doesn't mean that he didn't see that. Mm-hmm. I mean, there's so many different people that exist in the universe.